I had always dreamed of having a safe place for my dog, Max, to run free. He was a goofy golden retriever with floppy ears, boundless energy, and a tail that wagged like a metronome. My backyard just wasn't enough for him, and the nearest official dog park was a 30-minute drive away. That's when the idea hit me. Why not build a small community dog park right here in our neighborhood? At first, it was just a thought. But the more I mulled it over, the more I realized how needed it was. Other dog owners often complained about having no safe space to let their pets play. So I took action. I found an empty, neglected lot at the edge of our subdivision. It was overgrown, scattered with trash, and forgotten by most, but I saw potential. I started small, cleaning up the litter with Max sitting proudly at my side, almost like he was supervising. Then, a few neighbors noticed what I was doing and offered to help. Before I knew it, we had a small team. We put up a temporary fence, set up some agility equipment made from donated materials, and brought in fresh grass seed. Kids painted a bright wooden sign that simply read, "The Dog Spot." The park became an instant hit. Every afternoon, families came out with their dogs. Poodles, terriers, German shepherds, and mutts of all shapes and sizes. Max, of course, was the star. He would run, tumble, and play with every dog that entered. The laughter and chatter of neighbors filled the air, and for the first time in years, the old lot buzzed with life. But not everyone was happy. Enter Karen. She lived across the street from the lot, and from day one, she made it clear she wasn't thrilled about the commotion. The barking irritated her. The cars parking near her curb infuriated her. And worst of all, she seemed to have made it her personal mission to get rid of the park. It started with passive-aggressive comments. "Don't you think it's too noisy here?" Then came the complaints. "Your dogs are disturbing the peace." I brushed it off at first, thinking she'd eventually warm up to the joy the park brought. But Karen wasn't one to give up easily. One crisp morning, while I was tossing a frisbee for Max, I saw her standing on her porch with a phone pressed to her ear, glaring at me. My stomach sank. I knew exactly who she was calling. Karen had officially reported the dog park. The following week, I got an official notice in the mail. My heart dropped as I opened the envelope. Unauthorized use of land. Immediate removal of structures required. The letter had the city's seal stamped across the top. Karen had done it. She hadn't just complained, she'd filed a formal report. I walked to the park that evening with Max trotting beside me. Parents were chatting, kids were running around with puppies, and the dogs were having the time of their lives. None of them knew yet. I held the letter in my hand, debating whether to tell them. When I finally broke the news, silence fell across the park. Then voices of protest rose. "This can't be right," one man said, clutching his beagle's leash. "We all love this park. Who would complain?" Another woman asked, though her eyes darted toward Karen's house. I sighed. It's not official city property for a dog park. They want us to shut it down. That night, our community group gathered at my place. The living room overflowed with people, neighbors, their kids, even their dogs curled up at their feet. We decided we weren't going down without a fight. The park had become more than just a play space. It had brought the community together. So we drafted a petition. The next day, we went door to door, gathering signatures. By the weekend, we had over 200 names, almost every household in the neighborhood. I even created a presentation with photos of smiling families and wagging tails at the park, determined to show the city that this wasn't just unauthorized land use. It was a beacon of community spirit. Of course, Karen wasn't thrilled when she saw us canvassing. She stormed out of her house and snapped, "You can gather all the signatures you want, but rules are rules. That lot isn't yours, and it never will be." Max barked at her, not aggressively, but almost as if defending me. That only made her glare harder. A week later, we were called to a city council meeting. I stood nervously at the podium, petition in hand, with Max lying quietly at my feet. I presented our case with as much passion as I could muster, explaining how the park had transformed a forgotten lot into something vibrant and positive. When I finished, The mayor leaned forward, steepling his fingers. He was a tall, kind-looking man with graying hair. "This is an unusual situation," he said slowly. "But I must admit, I'm impressed by what you've accomplished." Karen, who had shown up to argue against us, shot up from her chair. "Impressed? They broke the rules. It's noisy, it's messy, and it's right across from my house." The room erupted in whispers. The battle lines had been drawn. The decision would be announced in 2 weeks. The morning after the council's decision, I woke up to the sound of laughter and barking drifting through my window. When I stepped outside, the lot no longer felt like a project we had to defend. It was official, a real park, with city approval and a name that carried more pride than I could ever have imagined. Neighbors had already gathered, decorating the place with balloons and ribbons for an impromptu celebration. Someone had brought cupcakes. Kids were drawing paw prints in chalk along the sidewalk. And Max. Well, Max was soaking it all in, tail wagging furiously as if he knew this was his big moment. Later that week, the mayor himself came out for a small ribbon-cutting ceremony. Standing beside me with oversized scissors, he gave a little speech about community spirit and the importance of green spaces. Then, with a grin, he leaned down to pat Max on the head and said, "This pup has done more for this town than most politicians." "I know." The crowd roared with laughter. When the ribbon was cut, Max dashed through it first, setting off cheers from everyone. Cameras clicked, reporters scribbled in their notebooks, and by evening, our story was trending online. People from other towns even started visiting, curious about the dog park named after one very lovable golden retriever. Of course, Karen was nowhere to be seen. For weeks, she sulked in her house, her curtains drawn tight. Occasionally, I'd catch her peeking out when the park was buzzing with activity. But she never said a word. Over time, though, something unexpected happened. Her husband started, bringing their little schnauzer, Buddy, to the park. Slowly, even Karen couldn't resist Buddy's happiness. One quiet morning, I saw her walking along the fence, watching him play. She didn't smile, but she didn't complain either. For Karen, that was progress. As for me, every time I walked into Max's park, I felt a swell of pride. Not just because my dog's name was on the sign, but because of what it meant. It was proof that a single idea, cleaning up a forgotten lot for a dog to play, could transform into something bigger, something lasting. That park became a heartbeat of our neighborhood. Kids grew up there, friendships formed, and even people without pets would come just to sit on the benches and watch the dogs play. Sometimes, as the sun set and the sky glowed pink, I'd sit on that same old bench where Teresa once reminded me what this park was really about. Max would lie at my feet, tired and happy, and I'd smile knowing that what started as a small dream had become a legacy. And every time I looked at the sign, Max's Park, I couldn't help but think, sometimes, even when Karen complains, life has a funny way of turning it into something beautiful. The 2 weeks leading up to the decision felt endless. Every time I walked Max, neighbors stopped me to ask for updates. Kids tugged on my sleeve, begging, "Don't let them close our park." The pressure weighed heavily, but at the same time, I felt something growing, a sense of unity I hadn't seen in our neighborhood before. Meanwhile, Karen didn't let up. She filed noise complaints, called animal control on baseless claims, and even tried to intimidate parents by saying their kids could get sick from all that dirt. It was exhausting. Still, the community rallied. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky in shades of orange, I sat at the park bench watching Max chase a ball. A woman named Teresa, who often brought her elderly dachshund, sat down next to me. "You know," she said softly, "this park isn't just about dogs. It's about us. I've met more of my neighbors here in 3 months than I did in the last 10 years. Her words stuck with me. The park wasn't just a patch of fenced grass. It was connection, belonging, and joy. Finally, the night of the city council decision arrived. The meeting hall was packed. Some people stood in the aisles because every seat was filled. Our group came prepared with posters showing happy, families, and testimonials from neighbors. Even Max had a role, sitting calmly at my side, wearing a little red bandana that made him look both adorable and dignified. When the mayor walked in, the room hushed. He cleared his throat. "We've reviewed the case of the neighborhood dog park," he began. "On one hand, it was built without prior approval. On the other hand," he glanced around the room, "it has clearly united this community." Karen practically leapt out of her chair. "United the community? It's destroying my peace. I can't stand the barking, the traffic, or the smell. If you allow this, you're setting a dangerous precedent." The mayor held up his hand. "Mrs. Henderson, you've been heard. Now let me finish." He continued. "The council has decided that rather than shutting the park down, we will officially recognize it as a community dog park, maintained by the city." Cheers exploded in the room. People clapped, whistled, even cried tears of relief. Max barked joyfully, as if he understood the weight of the moment. Karen's face turned crimson. "This is outrageous!" she shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the celebration. Then the mayor smiled and added something unexpected. "And given how central this one dog has been in bringing people together, I think it's only fitting we give this park an official name. From this day forward, it shall be called." He paused, looking at Max. "Max's Park." Gasps filled the room, followed by thunderous applause. I couldn't believe it. My dog had just become the namesake of a city park. Enjoying this wild story about how a neighbor's complaint turned into Max's Park? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss more community twists and real life dramas just like this. If you loved seeing Karen's plan backfire, give this a like and drop a comment below. What would you have done if your neighbor reported your dog park?